Previously on Libel the Bible.
God continues his plagues against the Egyptians.
Pharaoh, controlled by God, continues to enslave the Israelites.
God sends his final plague, killing every firstborn male Egyptian.
The Israelites eat flatbread to celebrate the deaths of Egyptian children at the hands of God.
After 400 years of enslavement, the Israelites are finally allowed to leave Egypt.
And now, episode 15 of Libel the Bible.
Giggles out like, let me save everything funny for all fair. I don't want to be funny on air.
Everybody, I'm Scott. I'm here with Malcontent Rusty.
Obviously, I'm Rusty, the malcontent.
Yeah. So what are we doing? Could you carry the show for a second while I take care of this important thing that I didn't do before the show, like you always keep telling me to do?
All right. So, problem number one's already begun. Last week, I specifically told Scott, listen, if you're going to work with me, you're going to have to do your drinking before the show so that you're nice and drunk by the time we get on air. And he is defying me right in front of my very eyes. He's got the bottle opener in. He can't get the cork out. Oh, there it is. He got the cork out. Good job, Scott. You know, this is good because what I really wanted to talk about today to start the show is mental disorders.
Hey.
And so I wanted to start because this could take a little while.
Well, nobody's really used to you droning on and on, so...
No, not at all. All right, so I want to read to you a list of 7 character traits, all right?
Okay.
And tell me if any of these... does God have any of these character traits?
Okay.
Okay. 1. Failure to obey laws and norms by engaging in behavior which results in criminal arrest or would warrant criminal arrest.
He does not exhibit that.
He does not.
No.
Even so...
Because there are no norms yet. There are no laws. He's laying them down.
No, but he's already specified certain laws.
Oh. Did he break them?
So, again, failure to obey laws and norms. So it's not just laws, it's also norms.
Okay.
All right, so let's say
well,
no.
The norms are pretty
no.
out there, yes. Let's say no.
Lying, deception, and manipulation for profit or self-amusement.
Oh, definitely guilty of that.
All right, so that's 1.
Let's circle the self-amusement, like stress that.
Impulsive behavior.
Yeah. Doesn't really think things out sometimes.
Irritability and aggression manifested as frequently assaults others or engages in fighting.
Absolutely.
Okay. Blatantly disregards safety of self and others.
We'll say of others and others, yeah.
All right. A pattern of irresponsibility.
By our standards, yes, yeah.
All right, let's say no.
Yeah, let's say no, because he's responsible for everything.
I guess. Lack of remorse for actions.
For the most part, yeah, I think there's lack of remorse, but he does have regret, which is different than remorse, I guess.
But he doesn't learn from it. He just keeps doing
it.
And
it's regret, not remorse.
All right, so we checked off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 7.
Okay.
If you have 4 of the 7, you are an antisocial person. You have antisocial personality disorder, which in layman's terms is known as sociopathy. So I'm reading the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Okay, the DSM?
The DSM, correct. So, Scott and I have been in therapy, like we're very well versed in therapy. My wife is LCSW, so I have the DSM-5 actually at home. So God is...
That's some good reading right there.
So God is a sociopath, okay? The antisocial personality disorder is assigned to individuals who habitually and pervasively disregard or violate the rights and considerations of others without remorse, basically. And then there's like a little more. All right.
So we're saying God's a sociopath.
So far, I would say we've diagnosed him as a sociopath. Let's go on to the next one.
I just want to say, libel the Bible is not authorized to treat or cure any disease.
This is
or
not
condition.
mental advice, right?
By no means.
Right. Do not take your mental advice from us. If you're going down the checklist of these things with us and applying them to yourself or someone, in your family or life, we are not condoning, making a diagnosis on your own.
Because contrary to what many people believe, Rusty's not an expert on something just because he read a few things on the internet.
Well, so far I'm 2 for 2 in our fact-checking section of the website, which, by the way, Scott has really done a great job on. You should go. Yeah, you should go take a look at it. It's libelthebible.com, and I'm not just saying that to promote the website. I've been very amused by what Scott's done with the website. Good job, Scott.
Thanks.
Good
man.
job.
Thanks.
All right. Let's move on. What?
I just want to soak that in, man. That was nice. That was like the first thing you probably said.
I mean, listen, when I turn my light on you, it is quite a moment.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
All right. So let's move on to the next set of behaviors. 1, a grandiose logic of self-importance. A grandiose logic of self-importance. Thinking you're like super, super like important.
Well, yes.
Okay, so check. Right.
God, man.
A fixation with fantasies of infinite success, control, brilliance, beauty, or idyllic love.
Yeah.
I like how Scott had to think about that.
I was just thinking, he let there be light, and he saw that it was good.
A credence that he or she is extraordinary and exceptional and can only be understood by or should connect with other extraordinary or important people or institutions.
Not really, because there's nobody in that. There's nobody in that vein. Like, who else is he gonna?
Like his chosen people. Like he kept Noah alive because he liked them. There's a select group of people that he's fine. I mean, that's textbook. All right, check.
And he has the textbook.
A desire for unwarranted admiration.
Yeah. It's better to be feared than respected.
A sense of entitlement.
Sure.
Interpersonally oppressive behavior.
We talking about you or God?
We're talking about God. Interpersonally oppressive behavior.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Just a bit.
No form of empathy.
He can't have any form of empathy because there's no way he would do any of these things he's done.
Resentment of others or a conviction that others are resentful of him or her.
Yeah, absolutely.
A display of egotistical and conceited behaviors or attitudes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just checked off all 7 of these character traits. 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm sorry. We checked off 9 of those character traits. And that is narcissistic personality disorder. So God so far is an antisocial narcissist. Like a sociopathic narcissist, basically.
Nice.
And there's one more.
Oh, boy.
One more. All right. Now, this one I looked at, and it was a little borderline, but, let's play along and see what's what. A compulsion to be the center of attention that results in discomfort if unmet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Inappropriate. Now, this one starts off where you're going to say no because it's sexual.
Don't try and lead me.
Inappropriate sexual, seductive, or provocative behavior when interacting with others.
Sure.
Okay. So, appearing as a burning bush is provocative, I would say, right?
No.
You don't think so?
Sexually?
No, not sexually, just provocative.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess.
Shallow, rapidly shifting emotions.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
Well, his emotions are shallow because he hasn't expressed any emotions other than like rage. What else has he exhibited? Has he exhibited, I guess, like satisfaction? He's not deep. Like there's not a lot of deep emotions going on.
Okay.
The use of physical appearance to draw others' attention.
Yeah.
Okay. Dramatic, impressionistic speech that lacks detail.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Exaggerated theatrical emotional expression.
Yeah, those hands.
Easily influenced by others or situations.
Hard to tell.
Right.
Hard to tell.
Well, I mean, his violence is certainly influenced by others or situations, but I don't know. Okay, let's not even check it. Assumes relationships are more intimate than they are.
Oh, it's no. I'm
No?
not
Okay.
giving that. No.
So, in order to be diagnosed as having histrionic personality disorder, you need 5 of the following. We checked off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And histrionic personality disorder is a diagnosis assigned to individuals who display patterns of attention-seeking, often dramatic behavior to gain the approval of others. So
Approval
God,
or just attention?
what?
Approval or just attention? Like people just want attention.
No, he wants more than the attention.
No, I'm talking about histrionic people, not so much God. I'm just saying.
Well, again, we're not therapists, but according to the DSM, I copied and pasted directly from the text of the DSM, which is often dramatic behavior to gain the approval of others. So, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but so far,
play one on podcast.
it seems like God is a narcissistic sociopath with histrionic personality disorder.
Wow. All right, so there it is. Thank you for doing your own research.
I mean,
that,
so far.
So,
maybe there's like meds.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe there's therapy that he's going to take and get better. One can only hope.
Yeah, he's
But
hoping.
sociopathy, from what I understand, is a very, very
Is he the
hard thing.
Is he the type that won't yawn if you yawn?
I don't know if that's. I guess yes.
Because was it you that told me that? That's
No.
a sign of empathy. The reason why you yawn when someone else
Right.
yawns, like you subconsciously
Maybe
have
I
empathy
told
for
you.
them, and they said, and somebody told me
It
that
feels like we had this conversation
sociopaths
recently.
don't do that.
It feels like we had that conversation recently.
All right, so
We're here to talk about the Bible.
I just want to mention one thing. I put something on the website that I'm going to take down, but I noticed that we had a listener in Cambodia. First time that I've got evidence that Cambodians have been tuning in. So I just want to give a shout out to Cambodia.
You think it's like multiple Cambodians?
It could be like a fireside chat maybe in some households where the whole family
Like
gathers
they
around the
gather
podcast.
And we're Roosevelt in their time of like desperation and need and poverty and
whoa,
they're just looking for something to grasp onto. What do you mean, whoa, whoa, whoa? What's whoa, whoa, whoa? During the Great Depression,
Yeah, no,
people
I
were
get it. I get
that
it.
was like,
I get it. It was just,
whoa, whoa, whoa.
because now if taken out of context, they might take that as like you're talking shit about their country, man. Don't do that.
But I wasn't talking shit about their country. Yeah, so there's this scene. All right, this is what you just did to me. We were just talking about the movie The End with Seth Rogen. Remember, like the apocalypse happens. We were just talking about it. Like
what?
Seth Rogen plays himself with.
Another movie.
Then why did you just go?
I don't remember us talking about it though.
Yeah, so we were just talking about that because we were talking about Seth Rogen and okay. Anyway, so there's a scene. The apocalypse is going on. They're in the middle of the apocalypse. It's like a week in or 2 weeks in. They're locked in this house, all these guys. And all of a sudden, Emma Watson shows up. The woman that plays Hermione in Harry Potter.
I never saw a Harry Potter movie. But, okay.
But that wasn't what I said. I didn't ask you whether you saw it.
Hey, break it down a notch, buddy.
Oh, my God. So she shows up. So she's Emma Watson because everyone's playing themselves. It's a celebrity house. It's a celebrity house, and like, it's all celebrities playing themselves. So she shows up. She goes into the bedroom, and while she's like, they show her up to the bedroom where she'll be staying, and it's like all these guys, they're huddled around, they're standing around, and one of them is like, he brings up like this really creepy like subject. He's like, he starts talking about how like, I hope she's not afraid that we're going to rape her. And then everybody else is like, what? Like, why? What are you talking about? Like, no one was even thinking that. So, like, by thinking that, he became the creep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And it was like, it turned into this whole scene where they started, like, saying rape a lot. And, like, Emma Watson came out with, like, a fucking axe. She's like, no one's fucking raping me. She starts swinging the axe around. It's like, one of those Three's Company, like, you're in the other room, you overhear something, out of context. So anyway, that's what you just did to me.
How so?
You fucking accused me of wanting to rape someone when you brought up the fireside chats, and I was like, and then I went.
I mean, it was funny just fireside chats. We didn't have to go into the detail about what they were.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right.
So anyway, yes, thank you, Cambodia, for tuning in. Interesting fact, I read that 97.1% of the population are practicing Hinduism.
Oh, you went into like a deep dive on Cambodia?
Well, I clicked on Wikipedia, And I was just curious as to, are there many countries in the world that have that high of a percentage of one people practicing one faith? 97% seems really. I mean, we come from America, so it's.
If I had to guess, I'd say Indonesia. Has very similar numbers of Muslims.
Okay, but I'm just saying 90. Oh, you mean
I'm saying
like high percentage, like
I'm saying like 97, 98% of Indonesia is Muslim, if not more.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that's something you can fact check me on.
There's no need to. Well, maybe I will. All right, we're 16 minutes into this. Let's talk about what we came here for. Talk about nothing.
What? I thought we talked about last week how we're gonna do some banter ahead of time.
We did.
You don't think we've been bantering?
We've been bantering a lot.
All right. So we're here to talk about the Bible, and this week we're going to be doing Exodus 13 through 16. We left off with the Jews finally being let go. All the firstborn males were killed in Egypt, and Pharaoh was like, finally, like, you can go.
Yeah. So on the previously on, it wasn't until I read it that I saw what you wrote that the Hebrews were celebrating all the Egyptian firstborns being killed. I wanted to say it's a strange perspective to look at it from. Like, I don't think they were celebrating that they died. I think they were celebrating that they didn't die.
Yeah, I know, Scott. We've had this conversation already. Like, it's not a perspective, it's a comedic perspective. It's like a quippy way of like including like something that occurred.
All them kids dying is funny to you. Yeah.
No, it's not funny to me. That's why it's funny. It's funny because this is a book that's taken seriously, and there's a movie about it, and we celebrate Moses, and it's a holiday, and it's based around like a series of horrific tragedies culminating in all these kids' innocence being killed by God.
Funny shit.
So to me, that is extremely funny. Yes, it is extremely funny. I have a dark sense of humor. So I'm not laughing at the deaths of the kids. I'm laughing that it's like really glossed over by everyone. Like, I'm fixated on this because this is like a huge event, but everyone just like, it's like wallpaper to everybody else. It's something that happened on the way to the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
I find that funny.
All right. So basically, God tells Moses that they're going to celebrate this whole Passover thing every year for the rest of,
Yeah.
Is that ad infinitum? Is that what that means? Like when you...
ad infinitum.
Something like that. Okay. Oh, I didn't pronounce that right. Shocking.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity, yes, perpetuity. So for 7 days you're gonna eat crappy bread, nothing that rises.
I mean, matzah's all right. It's not terrible.
That's like the crackers, right? Not crackers.
It's like big and flat and hard.
Does raised bread have any more nutritional value than non-raised bread?
That I don't know.
I don't think. If matzah's okay, why even bother going through that step to raise the bread?
Well, actually, flatbread probably has more nutrition because you're not adding yeast. So the other bread, you're probably using the same ingredients, the same wheat. One has yeast, one doesn't.
But one you can't fold, right? Yeah, you can't make
the flatbread.
Yeah,
no, you can't fold.
No, all right.
You could take two of them and put them together.
All right. So he says, and at the seventh day there'll be a festival to the Lord, and then he keeps stressing no leaven. Is that my problem?
Well, it's the festival of unleavened bread.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should have read that, right? The title, the festival of unleavened bread. But he's like, there'll be no leaven anywhere.
Yeah, for 7 days. You can't eat
nowhere.
Bread.
Nowhere in the territory. What do you do with it? And then what do you do after those 7 days?
I don't know. It's the obsessiveness that God has over this goddamn bread.
Yeah, that's weird.
And it keeps showing up too.
Yeah, there's got to be like a business reason, right?
Maybe,
somebody's
I don't
in the
know.
business.
Maybe he's got an eating disorder. I don't know what's going on, but he's very, very specific.
And then he says, "I'm going to give you a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead."
Yeah.
And I think he mentions it twice, and he doesn't. Does he ever describe what that is?
No.
All right.
So during Passover, in the Hasidic community, the rabbis, or I don't even know if it's the rabbis or men of a certain station within the Hasidic community, they will wear something like a cube of some kind, on their hand.
Oh, yeah.
And a cube on their forehead.
Oh, okay.
Specifically, to reenact this particular verse.
I was driving up Bedford Avenue last night, actually, through a Hasidic neighborhood, and very crowded. A lot of people in the streets. Is that because it was after sundown? So is it?
I don't know.
It looked like maybe they were all going to temple or something. I don't know. It looks like a very busy area.
I don't know what. I know Purim just occurred. I don't know
Halloween, right?
But they go deep, Purim.
Yeah, don't they got costumed for that?
Honestly, I don't know what Purim is about.
Oh. But I think they get costumed.
Because
I think every year during Purim, there's something on the news about some Hasidic Jewish kids were filmed wearing blackface. It's every year. Pick a different costume.
Yeah. No.
All right, so we don't know what those marks are. So we're going to do further research on that. So that brings us to the consecration of the firstborn.
Yeah. God's got a thing for the firstborn.
Yeah. See, I didn't really understand this. He said all of the firstborn are going to be set apart for the Lord.
Yeah.
Well, the first ones that open the womb. So talking about all firstborn males of livestock.
Yeah.
Shall be the Lord's. So what did that mean exactly? Were they sacrificed to the Lord? They were being killed?
Yeah.
Okay.
A sacrifice that they always made, burning a goat or whatever, saying a prayer.
So the firstborn donkey you shall redeem for a sheep, or break its neck. So what do you bring it to Best Buy and go, I'd like to trade this donkey in for a sheep?
I think.
Yes.
So he's saying if you have a donkey that you can't spare, either you can kill a sheep or I'll give you a sheep for the donkey.
Yeah, it was I'll give you a sheep for
one
the
of
donkey.
those, yeah.
And if you can't do that for some reason, you got to break its neck. And then the next line, he's talking about redeem all firstborn male children.
Yeah.
Do you think some father ever walked into the kitchen and goes, "Hey, honey, I took care of that." Took care of what? I broke Matthew's neck. What do you mean you broke Matthew's neck? Well, because I couldn't trade him in for a sheep. And she was like, dude, that's the donkey, not the kid. Oops.
I mean, if he had your reading comprehension, I'm sure that would happen.
It says right here. Oh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, again, why is it phrased? And this is the new revised standard version Bible that we're reading, So, like, the wording is a little clearer than the King James version. I don't even know what the King James version would have said, but I can't even imagine what it was like in Aramaic or whatever language, these particular texts were written in. It's nonsense talk.
Yeah, and now does this happen every year that this happens, or just this one time? With the whole.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I missed that.
Yeah,
He didn't say in perpetuity.
No, the festival was, but not
He
so
didn't
much.
say
Maybe
ad infinitum.
Yeah, don't. Didn't say kill Matthew every year.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Matthew in the future, right? There's a book of Matthew or something.
It's a gospel. The Gospel of Matthew.
Right. Yeah. I'll try and use names that don't confuse people, like Aloysius. Like he broke Aloysius' neck.
Good.
All right.
And that gets us to the pillars of cloud and fire.
Yeah. So now, when they're escaping Egypt, they're being guided by the Lord's taking a form, and during the day, it's a cloud of like a pillar of clouds. Like, I don't know, maybe like a little tornado or something.
Yeah, like out in front of them.
Yeah. And then when the sun goes down, it becomes a pillar of fire, so it lights the way.
Yeah.
That's some impressive shit.
Yeah, I mean, God is he's got some cool tricks, but I wouldn't doubt that the Egyptian magicians would have been able to like replicate this, because they seem to have replicated a lot of his other tricks.
Yeah, this is probably low on the
this isn't like
All right, cool.
All right.
So God wants to lead them around the Philistines because he doesn't want them to have conflict with the Philistines, because they might say, "Oh, we don't want war. Let's go back to Egypt. It's safer in Egypt."
Yeah, they might act cowardly. So basically, as they're like leaving Egypt, like there's a path that they could take to go directly to Canaan, right? As like we've read many stories where like Abraham went from Canaan to Egypt, and like Joseph and Jacob, and like, but God is steering them towards the Red Sea because he doesn't want them to lose their confidence or courage.
Right.
Because there's a whole bunch of wars taking place apparently in Canaan right now. So he's leading them away from the war, so they're like children, like averting their eyes from a crime or something horrific that you don't want them to see.
So there is no danger of Abraham's record of doing the Canaan run in less than 12 parsecs. They're definitely taking the long way around.
No, he's going to have to hire a ship.
So now it's funny because it says the Israelites left Egypt prepared for battle. Aren't these the same people that forgot to bring food? Like, they didn't have shit.
Well, in fairness, they didn't forget. God told them, like, he told them very specifically what to bring, and food was not like one of it except bread.
Okay, but they prepared for battle. All right.
And if they're prepared for battle, why is God steering them away from all those battles?
You know what? I guess you prepare for war, but you pray for peace, kind of thing. Like, let's not push it. Right. There's no need to run ripshod through the through the Philistinians.
Sure. Roughshod.
What did I say?
Ripshod.
Yeah, whatever.
That's all right. I say a lot of stupid shit too.
Really?
Not as often.
Yeah. So Moses is carrying Joseph's bones with him. Was Joseph the guy that said, "When I die, don't leave me in this fucking place"?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, Joseph is the one who basically was like, "Yo, fam, shit's good over here in Egypt. Come, chill." And then they did, and now 400 years later, of slavery.
Thanks, Joseph.
Yeah.
Nice coat, though.
No, not nice coat, because that shit got all fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
His brothers fucking took care of that.
Next chapter.
So now we're on Exodus 14, crossing the Red Sea. So this is where God decides, like, he wants to show off, basically.
Yeah, this is one of this kind of disturbed me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, God concocts like a plan,
like a war tactic, like a feint, he tells the Israelites to basically walk in circles so Pharaoh will get word that you're lost, wandering aimlessly.
Right.
And you're vulnerable because of that, because you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, when he finds out about the fact that you're like wandering around, I'm going to get all up inside his head again like I did and like make him like fucking want to bring you back.
Yeah, him and his officials go, why did we let these people go?
Yeah.
Let's go get them. So he gets 600 of his best chariots.
No, he got all his horses.
Well, he said it was weird because they handpicked, I guess, 600 of the best, and then took all of the chariots from Egypt.
Yeah,
so.
all his horses and chariots is what I read.
Yeah.
So now they take all this and they go and they pursue the Israelites.
And the Israelites see this and they turn to Moses and like, why'd you do this?
Yeah, they're like,
they get fucking
what
killed
the
now.
fuck, man? Like, shit wasn't great, but
Moses said some good shit here though. It could go either way though. He goes, the Egyptians you see today, you shall never see again. That's either badass or like go either way, right? Like you're not gonna see them again because you're dead.
You're gonna see nothing again.
You're gonna see not a damn thing.
So God comes in and he's like, tells everybody to chill out. Mm-hmm. Okay. And in Exodus 14, verse 17, then I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them. And so I will gain glory for myself over Pharaoh and all his army, his chariots, and his chariot drivers. So what he's talking about is, he's telling Moses, listen, chill out. Just lift up your staff, and the sea's going to part, and you're going to go into the sea with all of the Israelites.
Right, because the Egyptians feel like they got them cornered now. They got nowhere to go.
And I'm going to fucking get in the Egyptians' heads again and make them follow you in. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to gain glory for myself over Pharaoh and his army.
Yeah, which all makes perfect sense. but before that happens, I guess they give everybody a break. That column of smoke and fire. And cloud
that's right. So God
goes between the two armies and separates them for the night. Mm-hmm. So I guess everybody can get a good night's sleep. Mm-hmm. Like he keeps them separated. But if I'm the Egyptians, like why? Why am I fucking with this guy anymore? Now there's a fucking column of fire separating us. Like I don't get it. I guess because he's being manipulated. God's doing it.
So that's it, right? So like, any rational person would have stopped maybe after the river of blood, or the frogs, or the darkness, or the locusts, or or maybe even the death of like all the firstborn sons in all of Egypt.
Holy crap!
Right?
Yeah.
So that's reasonable and logical. But again, this is God being John Malkovich on Pharaoh again. He's inside Pharaoh, controlling Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's giving the commands, and everyone has to follow his commands. This is God. Like, God is playing Age of Empires, and he's like leading like an army into a slaughter just for the fuck of it.
Yeah. All right, so Noah, what's his name? Moses raises up his staff, and the Red Sea parts.
Awesome.
And it's pretty cool because how they describe it. Like it's the wall of water on both sides. It's like a corridor of dryness. Do you think when the water went up and they were about to step onto the I guess the riverbed, the seabed, like there was like old tires, like wrecked ships, like dead bodies. Like there's a bunch of turtles with like the plastic things around their necks.
I think the night before God parted the Red Sea, because he told Moses he was going to do this, one of Moses's travelers, companion travelers, Vinny turned to Luca and was like, yo, we got to get in there to take care of like some things that we dumped in there last Christmas.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I hear it's turning into some mall or something.
Let's get that cleaned up. Yeah.
So that's there's probably some shit on the seabed.
You think that's like the first Superfund site? They're like, we gotta clean this shit up.
So in the morning, God like parts the Red Sea, and the Israelites go in, and the Egyptians follow them. And in Exodus 14, verse 24. At the morning watch, the Lord, in the pillar of fire and cloud. You think he's just like, so there's a pillar of fire and cloud, and the Lord is in it. Like, he's just what? Like, he's like just chilling like on the cloud, like in the Michelangelo painting, you know, where God is like reaching out to fucking Adam.
I'd like to think he was like on like a nice recliner, like right at the top of the spinning vortex.
A recliner or like a lawn chair, like one of
Yeah,
those
like a
like
lawn
cool
chair, yeah.
like
Yeah,
tailgating chairs.
Yeah, something that folds down nicely.
Yeah,
in the
he's
trunk.
got like his like root beer or whatever he drinks, right? Like
He
in
drinks
the
root
cup
beer?
holder. I don't know. So at the morning watch,
Birch beer.
At the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire and cloud looked down upon the Egyptian army and threw the Egyptian army into panic.
This pisses me off.
He clogged their chariot wheels so that they turned with difficulty. The Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the Israelites, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt."
And God's like, too late.
Well, not only that, like, again, like, God is controlling Pharaoh. And these Egyptians are just innocent people. Like, they're just...
it's sick. It's sick. It's sick. And then he kind of gets Moses to do the dirty work. He's like, Moses, now turn around and use your hand.
Yeah.
And push the water back on top of these people, so it's not me.
Yes,
it's like
that's
yeah.
That's an excellent point. Like,
Do your
why
own
does
dirty
Moses have to raise the staff in order to part the sea? Like, it's nonsense.
Well, I think God's trying to establish like a, what do you call that, a prophet? Like
Okay.
Moses is like, so Moses is going for like, it's basically
So when people see Moses like performing the action,
it's like almost like God, like Moses can just make shit happen by saying things at a certain point, because do I have to raise my staff? Like, God's like wants people to respect him.
but
so,
is Moses saying these things, or what happened to Aaron? Isn't Aaron the one who like talks for Moses?
it's true, he does. Yes, he's still talking for Moses.
Okay.
Yeah, he still is. But yeah, so he drowns everybody.
Well, that gets us to the next section, right? The pursuers drowned.
Yeah, which is a very short section. It basically says the pursuers get drowned.
Yeah, I mean, and like we said, Moses stretched out his hand, and you know, everything returned to normal depth.
Oh yeah, and they said here that the Israelites now feared and believed in the Lord and Moses. So now God can get a break.
Well,
Moses is like his viceroy.
So when God is drowning the Egyptians, as the Egyptians fled, the Lord tossed the Egyptians into the sea, it said. So there,
even if you made it out, you didn't make it
so
out.
there were Egyptians that were going to be able to escape somehow, but he just tossed them into the sea.
Yep.
And Israel saw the great work that the Lord did against the Egyptians, so the people feared the Lord and believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. Right? So they feared and believed.
So Moses got deputized.
And that gets us to the weirdest part of the Bible so far that I've read. It's Exodus 15. It's called the Song of Moses. And it's basically like the world's first, like, gangster rap song, I would say, because it's all about, like, yo, you know, like, we fucked up the Egyptians, and Moses is the man, and...
Yeah, it kind of recaps the whole Red Sea incident.
Yeah.
There was a part in it that I didn't know if he was embellishing the story, but he said when they walked, like everybody they walked past kind of got, like the Philistines, they got pangs of pain. The chiefs of Edom got dismayed. The Moabs trembled.
Yeah, he's talking about like all the different sets, man. Like, you know, in East LA, he's like this one and that one.
Inhabitants of Canaan melted away.
Yeah.
I was like, did they actually melt, or they just kind of like faded back into the woods? Like they gave them space.
It's all metaphorical, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the thing. So apparently, they were all singing this, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a song that they were singing. Like they broke out in like this song. And my question is, were these lyrics written ahead of time, or was it more like a musical? You know, where they just like where like normal shit's going on, and then everyone just breaks out in song, and everyone knows the lyrics, and everyone knows their part.
Maybe it was like one of them improv round robin kind of things. Like I'll start it off, and you come in with something cool.
I heard that's how Hotel California was written. I heard like they were sitting around like a circle, And like they were doing that, where I'll say a sentence, then you say a sentence.
And that's why the song makes no freaking sense.
I mean, I don't know. I heard that. I don't know how true it is. That might be there with the Jerpel and Richard Gere. So I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt.
And maybe this was rap battle style. Like Moses started it off and like, yo, bunny rabbit, I got the digits from your mother for $1 tomorrow.
All right. So they're finished singing, but then like,
do you say singing?
They're singing. It's a song.
No, you say singing?
No, I said singing.
Oh, okay.
So they're finished singing, and then the Song of Miriam. All of a sudden, Miriam shows up. So Miriam is Aaron's wife.
Sister.
She's his wife.
Sister.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
So that's Moses' sister, too, then.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
But
so,
you know what? It could still be his wife.
For some reason. That's true. All right. So Miriam leads the women now in like some tambourine jubilee.
Okay. Wait. So they didn't leave with any food.
Yeah.
They were battle ready.
Yeah.
And apparently every woman has a tambourine.
Like, it's like thousands of tambourines.
Like, how annoying would that sound be? Walking for years.
And
like
there's one woman who's like out of rhythm with the rest of them, so it's like 999 tambourines in unison and just that one, just a bit off beat. Yeah. Then God made bitter water sweet.
Well, the song from Miriam was another recap of the Red Sea,
okay, right. It's basically like Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, a second account of creation, like this is the second account of the Song of Moses. Except it's called the Song of Miriam.
Speaking of Genesis, their last tour is now, right? Phil Collins is retiring because he's pretty. I don't
even know if he's touring right now. I heard he's in bad shape.
Yeah, he's in a wheelchair, but I heard he's. Yeah. So they get to Mara, the place called Mara. Well, it wasn't called Mara at the time.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
And they couldn't drink the water because it was bitter.
Yeah,
and
they haven't had a drink for like 3 days. They've been like without water for 3 days.
Yeah, but they said 3 days into the wilderness, which was the original plan. Remember, they were going to leave Egypt for 3 days into the wilderness to make the sacrifice to their God. So I'm wondering, is this a flashback to before the Red Sea incident?
No, I think this is once they've crossed the Red Sea. Now
3 more days into
they're like 3 days into right.
All right. So then God like illuminates a stick. Like to show, Moses, throw this into the water, it'll clean up the water. Is this like the help mode, like the novice mode of like an adventure game, like on a computer, where like you can't figure something out, so like the computer will make a suggestion, like will illuminate like something on the screen, like I gotta grab that or something.
Right,
it's like help mode, novice mode.
There seems to be a leaf moving behind the tree. Yeah. Will you investigate?
No. So he throws this stick into the water, and that makes the water good. How is that possible? Could it be alien technology we're talking about? Like it's like a water purifier.
I mean, that would be more reasonable to me than God existing, because I believe that there is life somewhere else, other than on Earth. Yeah. So even if I believe there's a 0.01% chance of life existing on another planet, that by default becomes more rational to me than God, like miraculously turning this water sweet. And by the way, why did the water have to be sweet? Why can't it just be fucking water? Like, what did he turn it into a river of like Coca-Cola? Like, what is this?
Yeah, sweet water would probably taste weird too.
Especially if you're thirsty, because sugar is like what makes it sweet. Mm-hmm. And sugar like dehydrates you. Like,
I don't believe that's true.
They haven't. No, you can fact check me.
So then they move on to Elim, which has 12 springs and 70 palm trees. Pretty specific.
Very specific.
Couldn't just be at plentiful springs and lots of palm trees?
Again, I think that we're probably, by not having read any other of like the ancient Jewish texts that were written, we don't understand the significance of numbers to them. You know what I mean? So these numbers were probably very significant to the rabbis who wrote the Old Testament, the Torah, you know what I mean? So it's like code between them. Because even back then, you figure like people didn't really read, right? Like only like certain people were literate, right? And so this is probably just like text that they were like writing for one another, you know what I mean? And so like whoever read it would probably understand the significance of 12 or 37 or whatever.
Well, maybe it's like a wartime code. Like this is like some Enigma machine.
Right. And they need Alan Turing to... is it Turing or Turing? It's Turing.
I don't know.
Do you know about his life story?
I know about his whole test is to determine if artificial intelligence is real.
Well, he's the one that came up with the machine that decrypted Enigma. You know, like back before like real computers. He invented like basically like a calculating computer in order to like break Germany's code. But the fucked up part about his life was he was gay, and it was like literally against the law to be gay in England. And like he was imprisoned, and like he had a terrible life, and I forgot why he died. I want to say he killed himself. I'm not sure, but he died very young, like because he was persecuted for being gay.
Sad story.
Yeah.
Not cool. Isn't the whole Ex Machina movie based kind of like on the Alan Turing tests?
Yes. Yeah. Well, right. It's based It's based on artificial intelligence, and it's like established in the AI world, the Turing test to determine whether or not you've created a true AI.
All right, which brings us to bread from heaven, because halfway through the second month.
So that's Exodus 16 is bread from heaven.
Yeah.
So we're on Exodus 16.
Halfway through the second month, apparently someone goes, "Yo, what's to eat, man? Fucking hungry over here."
Yeah. I also like that they arrived in Sin. So they're in like some city called Sin, or a region called Sin.
I wonder if that comes back.
Well, I think it's Sinai, because they're on the Sinai Peninsula.
Yeah. Maybe it's like like Tribeca. Maybe it's short for something. It's like NoHo.
Right. And by the way, so you mentioned...
Have you ever heard of Nolita, by the way?
Yeah, North Little Italy.
I never heard about that until I had to look it up. I was like, what the...
I mean...
I was driving through it, and like on my map or something came up with like Nolita. I never heard of it.
That's like a real estate branding thing. So here's the funny part. You mentioned they'd already been like, they're a month and a half into like their escape. They've been complaining the whole time. Like they've just been complaining.
I'm gonna get that. I
They're
actually
like,
wrote here.
just fucking, goddamn Moses.
They said it would have been better to be working as slaves in Egypt than starving to death out here.
Yeah. I mean, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, people were starving.
I'm sure.
They were like, yo, man, we were oppressed, but we had like food on the table.
Change is hard, man.
I mean, it's not that change is hard. It's that...
No, change is hard.
Okay, change is hard, but I don't know that that's applicable to the situation that I'm talking about specifically.
Roses are red.
I'm sorry, you have to make an adjustment from oppressive government to starvation.
Yeah, so they're dying of hunger, and the Lord says, chill out, stop complaining. It's going to rain bread.
Yeah, but he's also going to do this as another test. He wants to test the people in this party. He wants to see basically who's greedy and who's not, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's always a test.
Well, it's funny because he says, stop complaining. God says we're going to see if they can follow instructions. They're only going to collect what they need, and no more, no less, for that day. And they're going to do that for 6 days. But on the 6th day, they're going to collect twice as much as they need. Doesn't say why yet, but we know why.
No.
And so now Aaron goes to the people to tell them this story. And as he's trying to tell the people, because, Moses can't talk too good, he's trying to tell the people, they see God in the clouds talking to Moses. And I'm thinking... it's okay if they fuck this up, because who's paying attention to Aaron when God's face is in the cloud talking to Moses? Like, why are you distracting us with your talk while God's right there? I don't know. So the Lord appeared in the cloud, And Aaron said, by twilight, you'll be eating meat. You'll eat meat, and in the morning, you'll have your fill of bread. So I guess that night or the next night.
And by the way, you notice what God does? He's a fucking total gaslighter. So he's absent for a month and a half, right? So people are like complaining. They're like, yo, man, we're fucking hungry. We don't have food. That's when God shows up. He's like, what's everyone complaining about? I'm going to give you like food tonight, you know? Like the plan all along was to give them food, and like they're being so impatient. Like if they only knew what he was planning.
And don't you think at this point maybe they should get off the teat? Maybe like not count on God to provide for you.
So here's the thing. Also, I'm not understanding. All right, when the text was written, I'm assuming the Middle East was the desert that it is now. But it wasn't always a desert. Like, it was lush.
Yeah.
Are they in a desert right now, or are they in a lush environment?
I want to say they were in the wilderness.
Because I would think, so here's the thing. I would think that the people who are writing this, let's say they're writing this in the year 1000 BC about events that occurred in the year 2000 BC. Okay, so that's like 1,000-year fucking gap. I don't think people knew like geology and fucking climate science and you know what I'm saying?
They would deny it anyway.
So if they were in a location, they would always assume this is what this location has been like since the beginning of time. You know what I mean? Like this like lush land must have always been lush. This like, you know, rocky region must have always been rocky. So I don't know.
You hear my, they would deny the climate science anyway?
No, I ain't here.
Sorry. Just want to get that back in there. All right, so that night or the next night, a bunch of quail show up.
Why would they deny the climate science?
Because you know, you're talking about 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Why would they deny it? You know, now everybody's very accepting of science.
Right.
Know, facts that are right in front of them.
We're more elevated now. We're more evolved. And,
so much smarter. So the quails come.
The quails.
Bad for the quails. Dan quail.
Have you ever eaten quail?
It's like a duck, right?
It's so you know how a duck compared to a chicken almost has no meat on it.
Yeah, and it's darker, right? It's a darker meat.
Yeah, they're dark meat, which is fine, but there's not a lot of meat on like a duck. A quail is even less than a duck.
Hey man,
a quail is just like
it's food, man.
Here's
there's enough.
Here's how little a quail is.
It's like buffalo chicken wings.
Dick Cheney went hunting for quail, and the gun that he was used to shoot a man in the face, and the guy didn't die. That's how shitty fucking quail is. The gun that you're using to kill a quail can shoot another person in the face.
Oops, my bad.
And by the way, quails don't fly. They're on the ground. So why the gun would go off in the guy's face, which is at least, I'd say, 5.5 feet off the ground at minimum, when, you know, the quail are on the ground.
So I have to assume that he's gone quail hunting before, right? I'm sure it's like some rich guy shit, right?
And by the way, you're in a car. Like, he was in a car, and they would just, like, drive. Like, he wasn't, like, walking through, like, you know, a lake bed.
Really?
Yeah, like, they were in a car. They were in a car. He opened the door. It's kind of like, you ever see like Sarah Palin going wolf hunting, and she's like on a fucking helicopter, and she's like flying over like, and like she's shooting the animals from like a fucking helicopter. You know, like fucking original hunter-gatherers fucking experience.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. She's going back to the land.
Yeah.
Think she can see Russia from her viewpoint up there in the helicopter? So now you got to think, who Cheney did that, right?
Yeah.
Like he's had to be an experienced hunter, right? He had to, he's handled guns before, right?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure. Yes. So yes.
No, I'm just
he's
saying.
handled this kind of gun. I'm sure.
I'm just saying it's very obvious that with absolutely no training at all, everybody should just get your firearms because you know they're obviously pretty safe,
right?
Like no accidents ever happened.
Never. I don't think that was an accident. I think he shot that guy in the face.
It's like don't get involved. Soon you're gonna be meeting somebody in a parking garage with a throaty, stretchy
amazing
voice.
That guy's still alive. I think he's on like his 6th mechanical heart or something.
All right. So when the dew lifted the next morning and they looked on the ground, there was this flaky substance all over the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what it was?
It was coriander seeds or something.
It was manna.
Manna, yeah.
So I looked up manna because there's like manna from heaven. You ever hear that saying? I always thought it was like Far Eastern, like Indian. From like Indian like mythology, like Vishnu and like that kind of shit.
Right.
Manna. It sounds Indian to me. So no, apparently manna is from Exodus, and I looked up what manna is. Apparently, I don't know if it's real. It doesn't seem real. It just seems like the kind of fucking substance that God invented to like feed them.
The only thing that even close to manna is you play like a World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you have is mana. It's like your spiritual energy that you can cast spells using it.
Right.
It's like almost like a godlike power, I guess. And you can build it up, and there's stuff you can eat and drink to increase your mana. It's MANA, but this is 2 N. So
yeah, and this is food. It's not like
I don't know. It's like the Force.
Different categories.
Yeah. So he says you're gonna gather an omer of mana. Or this stuff per person.
In fairness, though, it does say what an omer is.
It is. I got to that.
It's like a 50th of a glibble.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. So gather no more, no less than you need for 6 days, and then he says, "Let no one."
I'm sorry. I'm gonna interrupt. I'm gonna let you get right back to it. It's funny to me how differently our minds think. So like Scott. And this isn't a critique.
Sure it isn't.
Scott loves these sections. When I was reading the section, I knew I don't even remember what Scott's going to read, but I knew that Scott was going to read it on air and that we would discuss it. He loves getting into like the minutia of like what God says. Like he's fascinated by God's like anal retentiveness.
I don't think that really applies to this section.
You don't think so? He's like very specific about like.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm into his anal.
That's you like his like little idiosyncrasies.
So he says, "Let no one leave any of it over until morning." So basically, he's like, "Yo, eat the stuff you gather because you gathered only what you needed and no more, no less. So you have to eat it." So people that didn't and they had leftovers. They woke up with worms crawling and it turned foul.
Yeah.
So
as does everybody that has leftovers. Like, if you have leftovers and there's no refrigeration, like, the food spoils.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what kind of food this is or why everyone would stick around.
Like, God's doing what? Predicting, like, you know, food, sanitation.
Yeah, right.
Shit spoils. Yeah. We get it.
Get your food handler's license. And then he says, on day 6, prepare twice as much. For day 7 is the day of rest. And you don't have to go out because you're going to have prepared. So the people that did that, they woke up the next morning and the prepared food for the 7th day didn't spoil. It didn't spoil. But then some fools went out looking for food on the 7th day. And the Lord says to Moses, "What the F, man? Like, tell your people to stay home on day 7. So I want to defend the people that didn't listen to him.
Please. I'm going to do the same.
Yeah, because they haven't eaten.
I wonder what the differences in our perspectives will be.
All right, let's see. I'm saying the people that went to get more than they needed were like, dude, I'm starving here. There's plenty here now. We got to gather it up. I'm not completely trusting everything that's going on here. So I can understand that. And then when he says on day 7, don't go out.
Wait, you're saying I'm not trusting this?
Yeah, like, why would I only get what I need right now? That's very short-sighted. Let me stockpile while stuff's still abundant.
But God said, don't do it.
Aaron said.
So there's actually, it's funny that you do that. There's like a thought experiment or an experiment, a social experiment, where you're in a room, let's say, with like 100 people, and everyone gets the same note, but no one knows that everyone has the same note, or they do know. It doesn't matter. So here's what the note says. You got to vote. Vote 1 is everybody in the room gets $20. Vote 2 is everyone gets 0 except you, but you're the only one that can collect like $1,000 if you're the only one that checks that
I think
box.
I've heard of this, yeah.
And like the vast majority of people like distribute the money.
Nice.
But there's always like the sociopaths that like, so that's what you're describing. So it doesn't sound like you're defending these people.
No, because what they by them gathering more is not taking away from anybody else. They're just being practical, I think.
Okay.
You know, especially if they came from like shit and they did. All these people came from shit.
Okay.
So I'm just saying it's just a weird test.
Well, my perspective is a little different because if you've seen God and you've seen God perform all of these miracles,
good point.
Right? You're going to fucking listen to God.
Good point. You probably should not be disobeying him.
I mean, you've seen God at this point.
Yeah, really. The night before you saw him, you actually saw him up in the cloud.
And even if you didn't see God himself, you've seen the fucking parting of the Red Sea.
Yeah, that doesn't really convince me.
Right. Right.
And watch all the Egyptians drown.
So here's my theory on why they would disobey God. Mm-hmm. It's the entire Israelite population, right, that has fled Egypt.
Well over 600,000 people.
So think about 600,000 people.
Well over. I think that was just the men.
There's going to be like, people with Down syndrome and like mentally handicapped people. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're the ones who are like, they don't understand. You know what I mean? Like they don't have the mental capacity to follow instructions. And so like it's not that they're disobeying God. They're just not mentally capable of following God's instructions.
It's probably not something that's looked at too seriously.
But God doesn't give a fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's all right because there really doesn't seem to be much punishment for this. There's there's no punishment for it.
I think, doesn't he like the next time he like dumps manna out? Like there's not enough for those people? Was that like a thing? No?
I don't think so. Then he says, let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations. So Aaron places it in a jar and puts it before the covenant. I didn't know what that meant. Like, what put it before what covenant? Like, you got a jar of this stuff.
Do you have that written down?
Yeah.
Like, what does it say?
Aaron placed a jar of, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
A jar of it before the covenant.
I don't know
either. But so was he instructing each family to keep like a jar of this stuff throughout the generations? And does that happen today? Like, does a jar of some weird stuff get passed down?
I think it was that jar. Was it that one jar?
Oh, yeah, maybe. So do you think there's like
a relic? You know how like Catholic churches have like the bones of like saints or whatnot?
So do you think this relic exists?
I don't know. Maybe that's what Indiana Jones 5 is going to explore.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, all right.
And so
it's got to be better than that crystal skull.
I mean, listen, I'm going to say
America. That was awful.
I didn't even see that
one.
Well,
it wasn't weird.
I know that he hid in a refrigerator to avoid a nuclear detonation.
Yeah, but you saw those. You know what? I don't doubt that you could survive.
Really?
Those refrigerators were insane.
Okay.
Insane, man.
So, the manna that God provided, that should better be fucking good because that's what they're going to eat for the next 40 years.
It tastes like coriander seed with honey.
While they wander in the desert.
So, wait a minute. Yeah, I saw that. So, it took 40 years to get to Canaan?
Yes.
40 years?
Yes.
So, when Abraham made that trip, it took 40 years each way?
So, here is...
Well, you're traveling by yourself. You're going to be much quicker than trying to get 1 million people to go.
Here's the disconnection between the book of Exodus and the rest of the Bible. So remember, the Bible is a collection of like different books, and some of them are going to have similar stories or maybe even the same story but told from different points of view, kind of like Pulp Fiction, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Apparently this will be addressed in another book, why they were in the desert for 40 years.
Oh, okay. So, like, it's not because the route was that long. I mean, I know they went around the Philistines and everything.
Correct.
And then they do
there's a rationale.
Okay. So an omer is 1/10 of an ephah, or whatever. But what I like about this is...
That sounds like Ferengi units of measure.
So
say it again. Say it in Ferengi.
So one slip of gold pressed latinum is equal to 10 bars of whatever. I don't know. What I like about this is it's a tenth, and the tithes were 10% of something, and then there was another measurement that was like a tenth of something, and I'm like, wow. Even back then, they realized the decimal system was much better than the fucking measurement system we use now. Oh, come on,
Maybe
America.
this is where the decimal system starts.
I think America and Liberia are the only ones still using like the imperial system of measurements. Everybody else is on
heard
metric.
there was like a movement in the 70s to like go to the metric system, and for some
Rip
reason,
the Band-Aid off already. You know, it's going to be tough for us, but the next generation will not know what a hectare is.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Oh,
I mean, that's it. There's
there's
no
it.
moving on. Yeah, we ended with them wandering in the desert for 40 years.
that's like a
They ate manna for 40 years wandering in the desert until they reached the border of Canaan.
so when we pick this up, it's going to be 40 years from now.
I don't know.
Huh.
But that was the very last part.
Is Exodus over?
No. Okay. Exodus is 40 chapters. So we're not even halfway.
Like I said, I'm worried that we're going to run out of material before we really catch on in the world.
No, we're not running out of anything. We one time a week recording, we have like years of material.
All right. So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Peace.